Hi, this is Bob from Hobby Concepts, and today I have a rather unusual project. This is the War Rig from Mad Max Fury Road. I 3D printed all the parts from files from a company called Gambody. I will put a link in the description, and put it on a Tamiya king hauler chassis. It is spectacularly cool. It looks fantastic. I did a lot of weathering on it, did a lot of special modifications to the chassis. We'll talk about that in the video. It's really cool. I like it. It scratched my itch for science fiction and semi-trucks at the same time. So this will be a fun video. I just want to say it's been a while since I did a video. I was in Arizona for a couple months and now I'm back. I'll slowly get back into the producing videos once in a while. But they're going to be kind of a bigger range than they used to be, not just semi-trucks. I'm going to be doing some RC helicopter stuff. I've got some science fiction models I'll be doing, and semi-trucks in there also at the same time, along with buyer videos. So stay tuned for, well, the mishmash that's going to be Hobby Concepts. In any case, today, let's get started. So this should be fun. I specialize in doing completely crazy things sometimes, and the War Rig from Mad Max just piqued my interest, something awful. And so I've got a few pictures here of the War Rig that I'm just using kind of for reference, interior shot here, and decided that I got to build this thing. I just have to do it. So as I mentioned in the opening, this is kind of a transition for me because I love sci-fi, and so you'll be seeing some more oddball sci-fi things, but this is a perfect segue since I build Tamiya semi-trucks. Now, the War Rig was built on a Tatra T815 semi-truck, and they actually built 3 of them. The original Tatra had a 275 horsepower motor, and they realized after they built a couple that they wouldn't have enough horsepower to tow the trailer, so they got a souped up racing version of the motor, 500 horsepower, and put in the 3rd one so they could tow the trailer around. I do intend on building the trailer and the fuel pod eventually. So the reason I have this drawing is because I'm looking at the length of the body in relation to the kind of chassis I'm going to use, and kind of how everything fits together on that, and how it will go to a Tamiya semi-truck chassis. So first thing, the files. Okay, the files came from a company called Gambody, Gambody. I'll put a link in the description. They're spectacular files. They come with just tons of parts, and everything I've downloaded, every scene I've watched, super accurate to the movie. So I'm really pleased with the files. And the first thing to do is to figure out how big to print them, because the files come in 1/16. So first thing I've done is build up a Tamiya king hauler chassis. Okay, this is a stock king hauler chassis with a couple of differences. First off, I always put a 55 turn motor in my truck. I always put full ball bearings in my truck. That's a given. If you need to see, I expect we're getting some new people on the channel because of the sci-fi thing and the Mad Max thing, and that's great. But if you need to see how these chassis go together, I have lots of videos on building the chassis. So, motor and ball bearings. The other thing I did was I left off 2 of the cross members here. I figured I would need them for room or whatever, and I left off the front uprights and the front shocks because I expect the cab or the body to be kind of narrow in here. No rear bumper mount. Figure that out later. The front bumper mount I sawed off. It had a kind of a bumper mount at the bottom, and I sawed that off and stuck it in here. I don't know if I'm going to continue to need that sawed off or not. We'll figure that out when I get there. So that's stock chassis. Okay, so now the question becomes how big to print the files. So again, they came in 1/16. This is a 1/14 scale truck. So what I did was I printed the files at 116%, which gives me a calculated 1/14 scale. However, I printed these 3 parts. However, they're too small. They just don't look right on the frame. I tried a driver figure in the seat and it didn't fit. It was the driver was too big. So I also did the old, took the grill, compared it to the Tamiya grill, and it's just quite a bit smaller. So I recalculated everything based on the length of this and what I wanted it to be. It's got to come back to about here to be scale with the truck in the movie. And I printed everything at 140%. Okay, so here's my 3 major parts. And these are the only 3 parts I've printed right now. Because I know I'm going to have to do so much work to try and get these to fit on there. The grill, as you can see, fits perfectly with the Grand Hauler grill. And when I lay these next to the truck, the length comes out right where I want it in relation to the rear wheels and the coupler, and I'm very pleased with that. So that was the first thing, was to print these. Second thing is to start to figure out how to fit them on the frame. Now this prints as a solid piece, which obviously does not work. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to take a good old saw, and just saw out this area right here. Now I expect I'll be able to reprint the final version with a pocket molded for the motor and the servos. I'm trying to get this loaded into my CAD program right now, but my computer is not liking it. This is a complicated piece and it's taking forever to render it, so we'll see if I can get that done. But in the meantime, I'm going to kind of saw this out and kind of test fit these parts. Okay, so that's the first thing. 140%, print the files, they look good, they fit the chassis right. It's going to now be a question of getting everything on there. The second thing, of course, was the tires. Now, the War Rig has single tires in the rear, and every Tamiya truck has dual tires in the rear. And it's got single tires in the front, but they're pretty hefty, good solid looking tires. So what I've done is I found a set of front wheels in the super singles, which are wider than the stock Tamiya tires by quite a bit. And this is the front, matches really well, and it'll go here. And that's an LESU off-road tire on there. Now the problem is Tamiya doesn't make singles for the rear. So what I've done is I stripped the chrome off a set of rear wheels, bolted them together, and sawed the back one off. Just sawed it with my bandsaw. And so I still have my hex adapter, and you can see I have the stock wheel here and the front half of the back wheel. And I can take one of these super singles and I can fit it on here like this and stretch it over to the outer rear wheel just fine. And voila, I now have a single, super single for the rear and one for the front. So I'll be able to mount that on a standard Tamiya hex adapter, and that's going to give me my single tires, and the tread matches the movie rig almost exactly. So I'm happy with that. And then the next thing is, because I took the frame spacers out, and because I need a place to mount the battery, I'm going to mount one of my my battery mounts here in the bottom. So let me get the pieces and we'll show that. What I have here is an adapter kit for this battery mount, and it's designed so you can fit the battery mount to a King Hauler chassis. So I need to mount this plate here, and what it does is it comes with longer bolts and it comes with a variety of spacers. So I'm going to use the longer spacers, and then I can screw this down to the frame and mount it right in here, and that will give me my battery mount underneath the truck. So I'm going to go ahead and mount that. Alright, so moving along on the chassis, you can see that I mounted the under chassis battery plate, which did two things. One, it stiffened up the side frames because of the width here, and two, it gives me a place to mount the battery underneath the vehicle, because I'm going to be running out of space real quick on this. I also have some tires mounted now. These tires in the back are just placeholders. I just stuck them on there to make sure the heights and everything were right. I've got a set of these tires for the back coming, but I'm quite happy that I have nice single tires in the back now, and everything's looking good. Okay, second thing was I took my nose piece and I took a full-size handsaw and just sawed out this area here and picked away at it. And I was originally gonna get on CAD and redraw this, but I actually don't think I will, because it turned out okay. This stuff is hard as a freaking rock to saw through, but anyway, got through it okay, and so now I can get things to fit. Now I did a couple other things. One is I printed a set of the fenders just so I can again make sure everything's lining up. I had to grind away a little bit of the front of the body so it would fit over the back end of the transmission, and I printed a seat mainly to see if a Tamiya driver figure would fit, so I got the scales right, and the Tamiya driver figure looks great, although I'm going to have to lower the seat a little bit, cut a little bit off the bottom. But anyway, that's how that goes. So how does it fit? Well, this is going to sit something like that. Okay, and you can see that it fits pretty good. The fenders are in the right place, the back end's in the right place, the front end's in the right place. My grill will fit perfectly, cover the front end of the truck, and I printed the front bumper, and it mounts to the bottom of the grill and will go like that. So yes, everything is looking good as far as the scale effect. I think I'm in pretty good shape. So now I'm going to go to work working on the back end. I want to get the coupler figured out. So I got the correct tires in. These are the super wides from LESU, and they've got the gnarly tread that I wanted. I've got my funky wheels that I cut. So we'll just be putting these together. I actually put a bunch of them together already and have them on the truck. But what I wanted to show were the spikes. Yeah, fit pretty good. Yeah, those look nice. They look very original. So the spikes I printed, and I tried them a couple different ways. I finally printed them with no supports because the supports in here were just impossible to remove, and they printed fine. They were a little bit small, so I glued some strips of styrene on them, which made them a nice tight fit. So for now I'm not going to glue them, just because for ease of painting, but they fit good, they look good. Put this one on here. I think this is going to be just fine. And like I said, I'm not going to paint them right at the moment. I'll do that in a little while. Oh yeah, this thing is going to be crazy. Okay, let's get some printed parts out and see what they look like. Well, here is a pile of parts. Parts. This isn't actually all of them, it's most of them. And I gotta tell you, the Gambody files are impressive. I look at these parts and they are really nice. I printed these on a Creality K1 Max, and they're just spectacular. I mean, everything about them looks great. I love the extra little details, like the Mad Max, the emblems on the underside of the roof, and that's a detail they didn't need to do, and they've done it, and they're beautiful. The rear seat is let's see, where is the rear seat? Right here is spectacular because it's got the different cushions, just like the movie. The cushions on this seat were different than these, and even the piece of rope there. Everything looks spectacular. They made the plow out of a farm tractor arm and added it to the truck, and these mimic it perfectly. This front plow is really nice, and the little skulls are fantastic, and they've got little little places where they mount. Oh my gosh, this is going to be fun to paint. So yeah, the details are just spectacular. So now I've got to start fitting this to my chassis, and I think that's going to be pretty fun to do. So I'm going to gather these up into an organized kind of a mess, and then start putting it together. Now I did decide one thing since I started shooting the video, and that's right now I'm not going to put any sound in it. I'm going to just get it running with a speed control and a steering and shift, and that's all for this video, because I'm running up against a deadline and going down to Arizona for a couple months, and I want to get this video up before that. So I'm going to concentrate on getting the body on, getting the truck running, getting some paint on it, and so I'll go to work on that. So let me clear these parts off my bench, and we'll start putting this thing together and getting it on the chassis. So I got two things going on with this crazy model. First off, I've got the chassis all done and my spikes are in here. But what I have to do is figure out how to mount the body onto the chassis. The body goes about this position, and this block is a little narrower than the frame. So I'm going to just make some plates that cover the side here, and we'll screw onto this and screw onto the frame. And the second thing I have to do is I've got the nose, and there's a little clip that fits in there and lines it up. So I'm going to glue these two pieces together. Also, I've got the dash on here. I'm going to glue the dash on and glue these pieces together so I have just one piece to mount on the truck, because aligning up the front and doing all that stuff requires me to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these. I'm going to use some epoxy, glue this on, glue this together, come up with some plates for this, and then I'll come back and we'll fit this on there. Okay, so I made these little spacers. You can see they've got a lip here that bumps out, and the way they'll work is they will mount like this, because this is a little bit thinner. So I will screw them and glue them to the body, and then I will drill and tap holes here for a couple screws to hold this on. So now I'm going to go ahead and get these pieces put together. Well, I've got the body halves glued together and the dash glued in. I'm going to also glue on the grill and the front bumper. Now the prints have got holes here that are designed to use pieces of filament to use for alignment pins. Since I enlarged the print, those don't work, so I just made some pins out of little bits of styrene plastic, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that on, because that will give me the appropriate length on the chassis. I want the bumper to be right up against the front. So I'll get that glued on, and then we'll get into the process of mounting this body on the chassis. This thing is really cool. So I got my body mounts done, and these are right here. Basically, I printed up a plate that's got a lip on it, because it had to space it out a little bit. And this one I printed didn't have enough of a lip, so I had to make a little more lip. And then I screwed it on and glued it with epoxy. So it's very strong, and now it just fits right over the plate, over the frame. And you can see right here and here I drilled and tapped holes, so this will just drop over here, and then two screws on each side will hold it on. So now I've got a little more work to start doing on the bottom of this. Oh, I also glued on these I don't know what they are, braces, brackets that hold the rear of the body up, and sawed them off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a plate that mounts on here that has sockets these will fit into. So when you drop this on, they will just drop right into that plate with sockets to kind of line everything up. So now the next thing I have to do is start working on the bottom of the body. Now the first thing are these exhaust pipes, and there's some marks right here where they fit into, like this, and then it basically runs over here like that. And what I've got to do is make a bracket that holds this end of the pipe, and then I'll glue these together. So I'll go ahead and design something for that and do these exhaust pipes on both sides. And then there's a barrel that fits under here. I'm just going to start printing it right now. And there's a couple barrels that fit under here. And then there's also fuel tanks that fit here. And there's Nerf bars that go here and here. So I've got 2 Nerf bars, 2 tanks, a barrel here, barrel in the center, and this exhaust pipe, and I'm going to get all this stuff put in. And once I get that done, I'll shoot some paint on it, because I'll start painting the interior before I can put the top on. I'm also going to paint this front dozer blade, and these little skulls are separate. So I'll paint the little skulls, and I'll paint the dozer blade, and then we'll come back and see how that looks. Now the reason I'm going to paint the dozer blade is it really doesn't need any work done on it. It printed out really nice. There's no real lines in it. I mean, considering this is a war rig, it doesn't have to be shiny and smooth. So I'm going to shoot some paint on this and some paint on these guys, just to kind of get a feel for the colors that I'm going to use. Now, when you scale colors down, they actually change. So when something is painted like a really dark blue in real life and you scale it down, it comes out too dark, so you actually have to lighten the color. So this vehicle was painted black, but I don't want to paint it black because it'll be too stark. So I think what I'm going to do is paint it metallic black, which is a little bit lighter color, and then spray a clear flat on top of that. And then some of the pieces I'm going to paint with, say, gunmetal. I'll probably paint these wheel hubs with gunmetal. So I'll have a little color variation with some metallic black, some gunmetal. I'll probably spray a little bit of black on top of that, and then detail everything out with rust and sand colors, because obviously it was rusty and sandy. I've got this picture here that shows it, and you can just see this blade, even though it's black, is just basically solid rust and sand. And so are a lot of the things on the bottom and the arms for the blade. And then as you get higher up, it gets blacker and blacker, because when it's running through the desert and the mud, it gets dirtier down below. So I'm going to slowly build the colors up. The exhaust pipes are different. These will be a light gunmetal, and the pipes themselves are almost pure rust. So we'll probably paint silver, gunmetal, and then weather the heck out of it. And then the engines will paint separate. So I want to shoot a little bit of paint on it just to see how it looks. So I'm going to print up a little brace here, glue these on, and paint this. And see how, and I'll probably paint these too, just so we can see how we're looking. Back to the war rig. The first few segments I actually shot before I left on a 2-month sabbatical. So I'm picking this up right where I left off. What I've done here is I made these little brackets for the exhaust that are going to mount like this. So I'm going to get those glued on with 5-minute epoxy. And then I also painted up the front grille using Tamiya metallic black, and which is not really a super black color. It's more like a dark gray, and looked really good. I painted the skulls with a NATO brown and a Tamiya Panaline wash. So that's the original color. Now, of course, as I mentioned, it's going to be all, rust and dirt when it's finished, but I like to start out with the original color. It painted up really nice. So I'm going to get these glued in, I'm going to glue in these Nerf bars, and then we'll see how that looks. Okay, so I got the pipes glued and the Nerf bars glued, and I glued those in with 5-minute epoxy, so they're really strong. And I've also done a little surgery on the seats. I cut the base down to lower the seat, and I had to cut the base off in here, but my intention is to use a modified Tamiya semi-truck driver figure, and with a little bit of surgery I can get one to fit. This obviously is just one that I had in stock, but I'll do a better figure in the appropriate clothing. So continue to glue parts on. I'm going to work on these tanks that go here, and then the rear fenders, and continue to glue in some more of these parts before I do the painting. I like to get them glued without paint on them so they stick better. And right now I'm painting the air cleaners. So I slowly am getting the body together. As I work along on the war rig, the next couple things to do. First off, I need to mount the coupler plate. Now the normal Tamiya coupler plate mounting location is up here, but I want to move it back further, mainly because this is where the body's going to go. I want to get it back behind the body. So what I've done is I ground away a little bit of the plate so it wouldn't hit the spring brackets, and I'm going to mount it right back here. So I need to drill and tap 4 holes for that. I took the rear bumper mounts and ground them off, actually sawed them off and then sanded the rear bumper mounts. So this is going to mount in here like this, and that plate will mount here like that. So that gives me a nice kind of looking back end with a coupler right towards the back. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and build the coupler plate. Now the other thing is I've got these mounting holes right here for the body, and they're drilled and tapped into the frame right here, so I can take the body on and off with 4 screws. But these tanks mount down here, and you can see that they of course cover up the mounting holes. So what I did, you can see also that I mounted the pipes and the bumper hoops and the tanks underneath here, and kind of got this thing going along a little bit further. I designed up this little bracket here, which is going to mount right here with a single screw, and I'm going to glue the tanks to this bracket, and the screw will be right in between the 2 tanks, so I can get my screwdriver in there. So to mount the body, will be put the body on, drop the 2 screws in, and then the tanks will be glued permanently to this plate, and there's the hole, and they'll be glued so I can get a screwdriver in between them. So then the plate will mount after the body's mounted. So to pull the body off, you pull 1 screw, pull the 2 tanks off, and then pull these 2 and the body comes off. It was really hard to figure this all out. I also have to design a plate for the bottom of these supports, which I will go ahead and get that going also. And that will be the final parts about getting the body, coupler, and all that stuff mounted. Oh my gosh, it's amazing how many little weird details there are. So I'll go ahead and get that. Now I've also done a little bit of work painting. I painted the rear seats. I cut the front seats down, they were too tall. So now my seats are painted, and they're a different color black than the body's going to be. These are TS 29, I think it is, semi-flat black, and the rest of the rig is going to be painted in metallic black with a flat coat. So there'll be some variations in the black color, which will look good. So I've got the arms for the blade painted. I've got the intakes painted, I've got the seats painted. I haven't painted the body yet because I'm still trying to figure out all this mounting, but I'm getting close to where I'll paint the body. I glued together the roof, which was a couple pieces. It drops on there fine. Oh my gosh, lots of little weird things to do. I love the files for this, though. I love even the little skull head figures mounted in the roof. That's pretty cool. Somewhere I've got the steering wheel right here with the little skull in the middle. I didn't use the plastic steering column. I'm going to drill a hole in this and make a steering column out of brass so it's a little bit stronger, and that'll mount in here. So anyway, keep working on it. It's looking good. Tanks, coupler plate. Okay, so sorry for the background noise in this segment, but I wanted to shoot it real quick, and I've got the printers going because I'm working on printing. But I made this little plate to mount the electronics, and it's going to drop in here like this, and then my speed control and receiver will tape down on the plate, and I'll run the wiring up to the motor and to the battery here, because there's really no room under the body. So that gives me an electronics mounting plate, and I'll be able to get all the electronics fitted in the chassis, so when I take the body on and off, it doesn't affect the running. I'll go ahead and mount this stuff and show you what it looks like. I'm just going to mount this little plate with some double stick tape. The chassis is now running. So you can see I've got my little tray here. Speed control's mounted, receiver's mounted, everything's hooked up. I ran the wires up alongside the transmission on either side, so they're out of the way. The battery plug is just tie wrapped to the standoff post here. So my battery, when it mounts, it'll mount in the tray and just plug right in. I actually can plug it in here. Let's turn the radio on and plug it in. So I now have steering, and yeah, works just fine, normal semi-truck stuff. I can set the back end up on a block here, and I've got my throttle. There's low gear, second gear, high gear. So all three speeds work fine. Reverse works fine. Yeah, all set up, ready to drive. So now, as you can see, the chassis is a completely independent unit. Works fine. Doesn't require anything from the body. So I can plug it in, I can drive it around just like it is. Now I've been working on the body. You can see I've got some paint on it, and slowly getting there. This is metallic black, and then some of the parts I painted in a little bit different color. The stacks here are painted in gun metal. Now, let's see here. There's the stack. And I did the engines in gun metal. They're not a lot different, but they're just enough different that it'll give it a kind of a different look as I go to work on it now. Tons of weathering needed to do. You know, I'll be spraying clear flat on this. I'll be starting to weather it, and I'll show that as I go. But I've got the main assemblies now painted, so things like my underbody boxes here are painted, and those are designed to mount up here after the body's bolted onto the truck. So I think I have pretty much everything, all the major components painted. There's a few little things. Here's the top. A few little things like I haven't done the mirrors yet. But I've got it enough that I can start getting the thing put together and get clear flat on stuff. So the next project will be to put the interior together, do a little detail painting with a brush, clear flatting that, getting the engines on, kind of getting this thing organized to put on the chassis. But it's looking pretty good. It looks certainly like the movie, and pleased with how it's coming out so far. The body is painted. This is painted with metallic black, and I haven't done anything else to it right now. We'll clear flat it later. The engines are painted with the gunmetal, and the exhausts are painted with gunmetal, just for a little bit of contrast. And the seats are painted with semi-gloss black for a little bit of contrast. Painted the skull in the front here. And I've got some of the other parts. Everything's painted, basically ready for weathering. Here's the roof. The horn is painted with gunmetal. And so now it's time to add some weathering. So I'm going to use this Tamiya red brown, and I'll mix up a little bit, and I'll show you how I do that. And we'll start weathering with that, and then after that I will airbrush on some Tamiya sand or light buff, something like that. And when I do that, I'll hold the airbrush a long way away from the body so that the paint dries a little bit before it hits, which leaves a spackling effect. You can see that there's a lot of weathering to do, especially on like the what do you call this, cow catcher? I don't know, people catcher. And so we'll start doing some weathering, and the weathering gets a little lighter as it goes up. So it's heavier around the bottom and a little lighter and lighter as it goes. And there's some extensive weathering here on the exhausts, a lot of weathering on these, I don't know what you call those either, the tire destructors. So anyway, that's the fun part. We'll get the weathering done. I've got all the boxes mounted to the bracket, so those will bolt on after the body bolts on, and the chassis, as you saw, is running. So yeah, we're whaling in on this thing. The weathering is going to make it or break it, so we'll go to work on that. Actually, before I start painting, I drilled 2 little holes back here, and I'm going to take a paper clip and cut a couple pieces of wire. I'll show you why here in a second. And then I'm going to glue these in, and I'll cut them off afterwards so they're sticking out about 1/4 of an inch. The reason for that is when this comes down, this'll hold it from going down too far, because it does swing up and down, and I don't want to glue it in place, but I don't want it to fall down any lower and hit the ground. So I figured just a couple of those little wire things would handle that. So I'll glue those in, and then we'll start weathering. So what I'm going to do for my rust paint, I've got some Tamiya red brown here. I poured some in just a leftover Tamiya bottle, and I'm going to add some micro balloons to it, just a pinch, like that. And why micro balloons? Well, they give it some texture, like roughness. I often use it with black paint for like non-skid walks on airplane wings, that type of thing. So we'll add a little bit of micro balloons in there, and that makes the paint rough, I guess you'd call it. And then sometimes I have to add a little thinner to make up for that. And I'll get it the way I like it. Yeah, okay, that should be good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And what I'll do is start painting it on the model, and I may thin it depending on how it goes. Also, I did finish adding those pins to the back of the blade, and so now the blade, when it goes down, it stops 3/4 of an inch off the ground. That way I won't have to worry about this catching things when I'm driving my truck around. Obvious solution to do it really cool would be to motorize the blade, but that's probably a future build. So now I'm just going to work on putting some rust on some of the areas, and yeah, I'm going to thin it a little more. It's a little bit too, nice thing about this is you can, with rust, you can just kind of hit it with a rag, dust it off. Drops of thinner if I can find my pipette here. Well, I don't see it handy. Anyway, I'll add some thinner to it, come back and put a little rust on this and show you how it looks. There's the blade after some of the rust brush on paint. Looks pretty good. Here's the arms for the blade. You can see it really knocks down the black quite a bit. Here's the wheel rippers. So now I'm going to paint the sand paint over the top of that, and I will kind of just stick the body together and airbrush the sand, and then once I'm done with that, I'll clear flat it. Before I do that, I've got to make this little hood ornament and the rear view mirror. So I'll get those made, and then I'll get to airbrushing. So I did some airbrushing on the chassis. You can see I had painted the rims here with the rust color, and then I did a quick overspray with the airbrush with desert sand, and I hold the airbrush a long ways away, which just gives that dust effect on the tires. Back tires turned out pretty well. On the chassis, you can see, well, hopefully you can see, there's a little bit of heavier rust in here, and then I just did the dust effect. I did the dust effect on the rear differentials. So that takes care of the chassis. Now the tire rippers, I did the same dust effect on those over the brown rust, and those look really nice. I'm kind of comparing everything to this drawing as I go along, so you can kind of see the front tires here with the dust, and the rear rippers with the dust. Now the blade is really brown on this, so I did a real heavy dust, and it turned out really nice. Now I've still got a little bit of rust to add to it. It's interesting that these arms here are a lot rustier, dirtier than the body. So I did those with, I painted them with some rust and then dusted them over. Now the effect with the body, here's the body, okay, with the rust and the dust on it, and it turned out pretty darn good. I'm quite pleased with it. But when you put the arm on, okay, you can see the arm is a little dirtier, rustier looking than the body, just like the drawing, just like the picture here, rusty or dirty. So the arms just snap in place, and then the grill. And I originally was going to put bolts or pins in this, but I'm not going to, because it really snaps up quite solidly. And with those little pins I made, it sits down on there just fine, and you can see the color variations look really good. So now when I set this on the chassis, it goes about right, let's see here, right there. It's actually starting to come together. Looks pretty good, or bad, depending on what you're thinking. And yeah, I'm happy with how the weathering's going. So now I'm going to take and here's the tanks. Again, dust mostly up from the bottom, not as much on the top. Those will sit in here like this. So now I'm going to take my Tamiya weathering masters and do some additional rusting and highlighting on these. Once I'm done with that, I will spray it with a clear flat over everything to kind of fix the colors. Let me just show you a little bit of my technique here. So this is the front blade, kind of a close-up of it, of the real vehicle, and you can see the rust in some of these areas. It's really coming through. So I use these Tamiya weathering masters. They're almost like makeup, I guess. And I'm using two different colors. I'm going to use the orange rust, and you can see like there's some buildup right here on this edge. So I'll just run the orange rust down here and continue to run a little orange rust. There's quite a bit along the bottom here, and you can kind of see that take effect. There's quite a bit in here. And I'm sure there's some on the sides of this. Especially around the bottom. Okay, so we got some of that orange rust in there. Looks pretty good. And then we'll take this regular rust and kind of highlight that, maybe up in here a little bit. It's definitely not an exact science. We just bring in some of these colors, and if you get too much, you can just rub it off and start again. It's one of the things I like about it. And then when I finally get it the way I want it, I will spray a clear flat over the top. Up in here, there's some orange rust in there too. And you can kind of see how these colors kind of blend and build and eventually make a pretty good looking setup. So yeah, there's the blade. Now that looks pretty good to me compared to the picture. So there's quite a bit more across these bars here. I'll probably do some of that. And then I'll continue around on the arms and then on the body, get everything the way I want it, and spray some clear flat on it. There's the weathering with the clear flat on it. Quite pleased with how it turned off. I've got the body bolted on, and yeah, it turned out really good. When you spray the clear flat on it, it kind of makes a little bit of the dust look go away and kind of blends all the colors together, and it just, I think, looks terrific. So let's see here. The blade is just going to snap in place. It goes on. Maybe some future iTunes version I'll make these work. Okay, there's the colors with the blade on it. Yeah. Alright, so what do I have left to do? Okay, I've got to mount my tanks. They're over actually in the paint booth drying right now. Got to bolt the tanks and the steps on. And then I've got to make windows. So I've got, actually, I printed out these solid windows. I don't like to try to print clear stuff. It never works. So what I'll do is I will use these as patterns and trace them onto some 020 clear styrene. And I'm only going to make the windshield and the 3 back windows. I believe in most of the movie the side windows were empty. And then I'll make a couple of rear view mirrors out of a piece of stick-on chrome. And because I noticed in the movie they're also looking in the rear view mirrors a lot, so they actually were there. And that's just about what I have left to do. So let me cut some windows out and we'll see how we look. And there we go. Just like that, it's done. I am super happy with it. I just think it looks great. It looks, you wouldn't want to see this in your rear view mirror for sure. The front bumper turned out fabulous. Looks just like the pictures I have of the movie version. You can see I've got the tanks in, I've got windows in, and the doors open. I do not have a driver figure in there yet, maybe a future update, but not worried about that right now. Tamiya coupler, so it'll handle any kind of Tamiya kingpin trailer, so when I do a trailer later, I can do that. Looks really good all the way around. I put some glass in the rear windows and some rear view mirror material. So yeah, it turned out really good. Operates well, very smooth. 55 turn motor, so it has a nice creepy low speed, and with the 3-speed transmission will still operate plenty fast to get away from those marauding bikers that want to kill us all. So wow, the files were terrific. Everything fit good, everything looks good. Most of this was printed on a Creality K1 Max printer and filament printer with standard PLA. The paints are all Tamiya, metallic black, and then with a clear flat finish. Lots of gunmetal, and then obviously the rust and the sand and the overcoat with a clear flat. You see the tanks there. The other side's got these step boxes. But yeah, it turned out really good. Suspension works good. I'm super happy with it. At the very end of this video, after the credits, I will put some high-resolution photographs of it right in the YouTube feed. So there you go. The war rig from Mad Max Fury Road. That's the most unusual project I've ever done with a semi-truck. But overall, super good. So hey, I appreciate it. We will be back with some more videos. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.